We all know that terrifying, thunderous roar from the movies. You hear it and you immediately picture a massive apex predator. But that sound is a complete fabrication. Audio designers created it by mixing the screech of a dolphin, the bark of a dog, and the noises of a mating tortoise. Our visual image of these animals is built on the exact same kind of Hollywood guesswork. The scaly, green, lizard-like monsters we grew up seeing were born from early scientific assumptions, not hard evidence. Early paleontologists suffered from an anatomical blind spot known as the shrink wrap problem. When they discovered a skeleton, they reconstructed the animal by mentally pulling skin tight directly over the bones. They entirely ignored the volume that necessary muscle and thick layers of fat would add to the creature. When you strip away the muscle, fat, and soft tissue, you end up with a gaunt, skeletal monster. The baseline image we have of a dinosaur is an illusion built on incomplete data. We know exactly how wrong this approach can be, because we've made the exact same mistake with animals that are still alive today. Take the coelacanth. For decades, scientists only knew this ancient fish from its fossilized bones, and they predicted it was a small, slender creature. Then, in 1938, a fisherman pulled one out of the water. The actual living coelacanth weighed over 100 kilograms. It was massive, bulky, and covered in thick scales. Fossilized bones are highly durable, but they lie by omission. They completely fail to preserve fat distribution, the presence of hair, the exact layout of feathers, or skin coloration. If researchers could misjudge the size and shape of a living fish by that wide of a margin, our historic models for extinct apex predators are highly suspect. This pop culture distortion extends to how they lived, too. Movies frequently dump the Stegosaurus, the Brachiosaurus, and the T-Rex into the exact same jungle. In reality, they never crossed paths. This timeline maps the temporal gap between these species. The Stegosaurus went extinct 80 million years before the first T-Rex walked the Earth. Now, let's extend that timeline to the present day, dropping a marker for the first iPhone. When you look at the math, the T-Rex is chronologically closer to the invention of modern cellular technology than it is to the existence of the Stegosaurus. The age of dinosaurs is a heavily compressed myth. These animals lived in vastly isolated epochs across entirely different, non-overlapping worlds. In 2005, Dr. Mary Schweitzer managed to look inside a 68-million-year-old T-Rex bone and discovered something biology dictated shouldn't be there: intact, flexible soft tissue. When her team ran an amino acid sequencing on that tissue, the genetic code didn't point to a lizard or a crocodile. It was a 99% genetic match to a modern chicken. In paleontology, a dinosaur is defined by specific anatomical criteria: legs positioned directly beneath the body, a highly specific pelvic structure, and hollow bones. A modern chicken meets every single one of those structural requirements. We also have the fossil evidence to back this up. Species like the velociraptor, and very likely the T-Rex, were covered in feathers. They would build nests, arrange their eggs, and sit on them exactly the way modern birds do. As millions of these creatures died, their phosphorus-rich bones accumulated in the soil and the ocean floors over millions of years. Today, those ancient biological deposits make up the massive phosphate reserves we heavily mine in regions like Morocco. Today, their physical remains fertilize global agriculture, and their direct genetic lineage continues in the sky. Knowing their descendants are still here, the immediate scientific temptation is to extract that ancient DNA and clone an apex predator back into existence. Recently, a company called Colossal Biosciences managed to reconstruct the genome of the direwolf, extracting DNA fragments from bone and using them to bring back genetic traits of an animal that died out 12,000 years ago. But 12,000 years is a fraction of a second compared to the 66 million years since the T-Rex died out. Genetic material has an absolute biological half-life. It physically degrades and disappears over that timescale. You cannot sequence empty rock. True resurrection directly from a fossil is biochemically impossible. We do, however, have a biological workaround. Modern birds carry dormant genes, ancient and active sections of DNA inherited from their prehistoric ancestors. Laboratories are currently experimenting with chicken embryos, trying to reactivate these specific genetic switches to coax out ancestral traits, like heavy jaws with teeth and long reptilian tails. The towering, scaly cinematic monsters of our childhood are an illusion. The reality is that the apex predators of the Cretaceous period simply shrank, grew feathers, and are currently